This is an overview of the Panasonic DMC-G5 camera. Let's start with the case. The outside pocket, cable. Inside the case, the camera itself with lens, charger, and in this pouch, extra battery, body cap. To pack the camera, place the cable in the pocket on the outside. Place the charger on one side. Place the extra battery and the body cap in the bag. Place it on the other side. And then the camera will go lens first into the bag. Ensure that this portion of the camera, the grip, lines up with the battery and body cap on the one side rather than the charger, as it will not fit the other way. The camera slides in like this. The strap is coiled up and placed just to the side like this. This is the way it should be returned to the equipment office. The G5 comes with a lens hood attached. You'll need to detach this for any use of the camera, as it interferes with function of the zoom ring and focus ring. To detach the lens hood, simply twist and remove. To use the lens hood, flip it around, put it back on, twist, and you're ready to go. The lens hood is mostly used for outdoor shooting to prevent stray light from entering the lens and producing flares. Remove the lens cap. Please be sure to keep it in a safe place where it won't get lost. Keeping it in the bag is preferable. The lens that comes with the camera has two rings. This is the zoom ring. You can use it to extend the camera from the focal length 14 millimeters to 42 millimeters. And this is the focus ring. The focus ring is disabled during all autofocus modes and enabled when set to manual focus. The lens comes with a UV filter, which you can see here. This should remain on the lens at all times unless for some reason the glass on the lens gets dirty or there's some kind of obstruction. Otherwise, please keep this on the lens as it's there for protection. The G5 has a micro 4/3 mount and can accept any micro 4/3 lens that you may have or that you might check out. To remove the lens, simply press down the silver button, and while holding it down, twist the lens and remove. You'll notice that this lens is a photographic lens, not a cine lens. Therefore, the zoom is a little sticky, especially for slower zooms, and not really suitable for any kind of zoom shot. So for most shots, be sure to determine your focal length in advance, and that way you don't have to worry about zooming during the shot. The battery for the G5 is located underneath. Simply flip the switch like so. That one, there's the battery. The card is also located in the same place. To release the card, simply press and remove. To insert it, push in until it clicks. Make sure that the battery contacts line up. Insert the battery until it clicks. Lock the door. To charge the battery, align the contacts. Insert the battery. Plug the unit into the wall. While it is charging, the light will glow green. When it's done charging, the light will turn off. The G5 comes with a flip-out monitor. You can use it on the back like this. You can also use it out to the side. It's especially good for high or low angle shots. When storing the camera, always make sure that the monitor is returned to its original position. This is a touch monitor, so we'll get fingerprints. To clean the monitor, simply use a dry, soft cloth. The G5 has both the external LCD and an internal viewfinder. The camera will switch back and forth between the two when your face gets close enough to see through the eyepiece. You can also do this manually with the function 3 button. First here you have your shutter button. You'll use this to take a picture. Press the button halfway down to get focus and exposure meter. Then press the rest of the way to get your shot. You can also simply press it down to get the full shot. This next one is the function lever. It does a variety of different things once you're in your menus, but outside of the menu, what it primarily does is control your exposure adjustment. You can see here as I push it to the left, my image gets darker. As I push to the right, my image gets lighter. This is great for making minor tweaks to the image. Basically, the camera will give you a read, and if you feel like that's a little bit too light or a little bit too dark, then you can then quickly make this adjustment, snap your picture. So you'll see down here at the bottom when no adjustment has been made, it has a plus or minus 0. Once the adjustment has been made, this little indicator will tell me that it's moving to the left or right of 0. It'll also flash momentarily while I do it. This is telling me that it's below the reading that it has felt is the best. This moves in third of a stop. So it takes 3 moves to adjust the exposure 1 stop. Now you have to be careful as you're taking pictures because you're manipulating the shutter a lot, and sometimes this thing can get bumped as you're working the camera, and you may not realize that you've made a change to your exposure and then everything's dark. All right, the next button is the movie record button. You'll use this to capture motion picture. So a single beep and a flashing red indicator. You have your timer over here. Lets you know that you're recording video. Press it again to stop. Double beep lets you know that it has stopped as well. This is the intelligent auto button. This is basically your auto function. You'll notice there's not one on the mode wheel as we usually find. This will take care of everything for you, but it'll also make a number of creative decisions as well, oftentimes that you do not want it to make. I do not recommend using the auto button. Rather, we want to have more control over our parameters. Okay, let's move over to the mode wheel. So P is program. This is a good all-around setting. It's best typically to leave your camera in P, that way it's ready to go. Still photography, shooting video, the settings are there, and it'll for the most part give you an optimal exposure. A is for aperture priority, and what this does is it allows you to control your aperture setting so that you can manipulate depth of field. So here I have the aperture all the way open. I'll snap my picture, and now I'm going to have my aperture all the way closed. Now you notice that the exposure didn't change for both. Seem to be properly exposed. What you will notice, however, is that the one that I did with the aperture wide open, the neck of the guitar goes out of focus, whereas the one where I had the aperture closed, the neck is almost entirely in focus. So aperture priority is used to control depth of field. Shutter priority is used to control speed. For this one, you'll be controlling the length of the shutter time. I'll do the same thing with my wheel. Now once I've pressed the shutter halfway, I'll also be able to see the corresponding aperture adjustment. So you can see that as I'm dropping my shutter speed to 1/60th of a second, 1/125th of a second, 1/100th of a second, that my aperture is also going up by approximately third stops. I'm sorry, now it's opening up. So as mentioned, everything else will change, so you still get the proper exposure. But I'll use this, for instance, if I need to be able to capture a fast-moving image without blur. Then I want to say at 1/1000th of a second or even higher. Now you notice my aperture has stopped moving, which means that it's as wide as it can get. Most likely my image will be overly dark. So I'll bring it back down to where I see that my aperture is moving. I know that 1/640th of a second should still give me a properly exposed image. M is for manual, and for this one it will control both the aperture and the shutter speed. So I'll do these with my two different dials. Here I'm controlling shutter. With my function lever I'm controlling aperture. Now this indicator right here tells me how close I am to what the camera is reading as a proper exposure. So right here it's giving me the plus or minus 0, and I know that that's a pretty good setting. Of course, I'm often using manual because I want to change things. For instance, get a darker image or whatever it is. All right. The two scene modes are customizable. That way, if you have some favorite settings, then you can program them in. The scene mode gives you some creative options, such as vivid sunset glow, bright blue sky, and so forth. You'll be able to see that, for instance, this one will give you a heavily orange image. Now, these are the kinds of things that we can control in post-production, and it's typically better to do so there. This other creative mode with the little paintbrush and palettes will give you some other creative options, such as cross-processing, which will change your colors, toy effect, miniature effect. A lot of these are simple adjustments to color temperature, white balance, and to aperture. But there are a few useful things in here. For instance, the star filter, especially if you're shooting Vegas at night, want to put a little extra glitz. The cross-process gives it a unique combination of colors, which is also possible in post-production, but this can be a useful effect. Then there's some other ones which are less useful. It's better to do those afterwards. So I'm going to return it to P, or program mode. All right, let's look at the back here. I have more buttons. Let's start with the quick menu. The quick menu allows you to access a lot of different functions of the camera, a lot of different settings very quickly. You can scroll through them. When you want to move down into that particular menu, hit down on your cursor buttons, or of course you can also simply touch. So this is your photo style, and this controls the style of the picture, obviously. So this is standard. Then we can move to vivid, which is basically has more saturation. Natural, which is a flatter image. Monochrome, black and white. Scenery, which is landscape, has a little extra sharpness and tries to give you more depth of field. Portrait tries to soften the image to some extent, and so it opens up the aperture. Might apply a softness filter. And finally, there's a custom one. So typically we will work in natural because it gives us the greatest dynamic range and the most flexibility in post-production. Here's your force flash in case you want to, it gives you red eye reduction, that kind of thing. It's something that we don't use very much. If you need a fill flash, you can just open up the flash and it'll automatically be on. Here are your motion picture settings. We'll get into these when we move into our other menu. Here are your picture sizes. You have large, medium, and small. And then in here you have a number of different aspect ratios. So here's 4:3, 3:2, this is the one that will fill the frame here. 16:9, this gives you something approximating the cinema settings. And here's the square one similar to that on Instagram. I'm going to stick with a small picture since I'm mostly using these for reference images. This is your quality, fine or standard, and then if you want to add a raw picture as well. This is your autofocus setting. You'll notice that there is no autofocus on the lens itself. Your manual focus, autofocus setting on the lens, and so you have to come into the quick menu in order to set that. Here's your basic autofocus. Flexible and continuous allow for moving subjects, and we'll follow them as you're taking the picture. This can be useful for taking pictures, for instance, of children or sports photography, that kind of thing. This can also be used in motion picture photography for your video. And then finally, manual focus for when you want to use the focus ring, and will engage that. We'll leave it in autofocus for the moment. Oops, sorry about that. All right, this is your autofocus mode. 23 area weighs the entire picture. 1 area heavy weights the center. Pinpoint is just the very point in the middle so that you can grab a focus very easily. And then there's a tracking and face detection setting as well. I'm going to leave this on 1 area focusing on the center. This is your metering mode. This is for your exposure. There's center weighted, spot, and multi-metering. We're going to leave it on center weighted. Here's your exposure compensation. We've already done this with the function lever. Here's your ISO. Very easy to control this. And finally, your white balance. Now we also have those. I'm going to get out of the quick menu here, and I'm going to look down at my cursor buttons, and I have ISO here again. So I'm indoors. I may need a little extra sensitivity, so I'm going to leave this on 800 for now. I also have white balance. I have it on auto for the moment. I have mixed light in here. Now there's a great feature here that you see the typical ones from shade and sun, incandescent. Here's for your flash. And then there's a couple of programmable ones. And then finally one that allows you to control your color temperature manually. So you can see here that I can actually just dial this right in. So I'm at 38, 37, maybe around 4,000 or so. So this is a great way to control exactly how warm or cool your image is without relying on the other settings. All right, there are a number of display options. This one gives you a histogram, a level, and a lot of information around the sides. This one is just the level. I hit it again to turn off the display. Again, to just get the histogram. And then there's a clean one in here as well. All right, let's look at the main menu here. Once again, a number of different options. Pressing any one of these will take you into the menu. And then you can cycle through using the cursor buttons. So in this menu, you can control a number of things that we've already been able to control outside of the menu. So we'll just skip through here and just note the things that we do need to know within this menu. So here's for the still photography. Everything that we need, we've already taken care of. So we'll go out here to motion picture. Go up to the first page here. Okay, so record mode, this is important. You can see here that you have 2 options, AVC HD and MP4. That gives you a little bit of information there. AVC HD is the best mode for playing on your TV. This is the codec that's used for DVDs and Blu-ray discs. MP4 is great for computers. It's also the best format if you're going to do a lot of heavy editing, because AVC HD requires more processing, then your computer works a lot harder during the edits to apply all of your effects and that kind of thing. So if you're going to do a lot of editing, and probably most people are going to see it, or most of your distribution is going to be online anyway, then MP4 is generally the best. So do that, and once you selected that, you can come down here to record quality, and this is where you're going to select your size, so and your frame rate. So we have a few different options here. Here's 1080 60p, 28 megabits per second. This is your highest bit rate. Here's 60i. We typically will not do interlaced. And then here's 30p, and then finally here's at 720. So unfortunately, the G5 does not shoot at 24. However, you can output at 24 later on. So this is typically, if you're going to do AVC HD, this is the closest that you'll get to 24 at a 17 megabits per second rate at 1080. Let's go back here and let's just look at our MP4 options. I have to go there and come down to record quality here. And you can see that I have full HD at 1080, and then here's 720, and then 640. All right, let's also look here at the focus mode. So these are the same options that we had before with our flexible and continuous and then manual. So because our lens, the lens that the camera comes with, does not lend itself to, say, racking focus, if you absolutely do have to do a rack focus in your image, then it's not a bad idea to use this continuous autofocus. So what this will do, let's change our display here. If I'm shooting the movie, this should change my focus during the course of the shot. Now, it's never ideal to let the camera do this for you, but if you don't have another choice, this one is actually fairly smooth. And you would just do a few takes and try to position the camera such so that it quickly grabs the focus and does so in a way that's not too obvious. All right, moving back here into the menu. Last thing we're going to take care of is setting the clock. The clock should be set, but it's a good idea to make sure so that you can have accurate information, metadata, on your images as they come in, so that if you have a multi-day shoot, that you can easily tell what was shot when. Okay, that's it for the Panasonic Lumix DMC-G5 camera.